Okay. So I'm going to be starting with my Pan Pastel just to kind of give a base tone. I won't be using a blue. I'll be using a Payne's Gray, which is kind of a cooler gray tone to start with as my base. And this is just to fill in to give that really nice soft look. So I'm using a paintbrush to apply it. And don't worry about staying in the lines too much because we're eventually going to be adding that on the outside. Then get a brush. Going to outline just lightly with black. And I'm not pressing hard when I'm putting on my color pencil, for the reason that if you apply way too dark right away or at all, it's gonna not allow as many layers, and we want as many layers as possible when it comes to doing realistic pet portraits. So now I'm just going to start working out, and I'm going to take a blue and just start adding my layers. I'm not necessarily going to be keeping an eye on direction, but as I'm working out, I'm going to be working towards the other side of the eye, not down. But as I thicken this part, I'm just following along the outline. And then I'm going to add it on the outside. I'm going to add some white in the middle because I want it to be the lightest area. And this is going to help blend everything in. And don't have to worry about the direction with this one. Just gonna keep working in these blues. Blend it in with the white a bit more. And there is a bit of shadow in my portrait, just the top. So instead of taking a black, I'm just gonna bring in some darker blues. To bring that shadow in. Because using a straight black will actually make your portrait look flat. And I will be adding some dark gray over top as well. I'm just going to start filling this guy in. And with black, I'm going to be taking even a darker blue, just putting it in for top and a little bit around. And when it comes to finer detail, I do like keeping my paint or my pencil fairly sharp, just so I can get in all those tiny details, especially when you have really bold eyes. You want as much detail in there as possible. Now taking a, what color do I have? A dark indigo, I would like just extending a little bit out with a couple lines. Add some darker shadows up top. And I will be going over this a lot with different colors and layering. Just so we get the shadows we need. And then I'm gonna darken my outline with this indigo blue. And I do have a brush here to kind of wipe off the excess. And taking a knife, scratching out some of the details. This is going to bring some of the natural highlights back without just reapplying white over top. And I will be brushing off quite a bit, just because it can get messy. I'm gonna go back in and fill in. And I use an electric eraser to take away some of the pigment. These are really good if you want to erase and not have to smudge. It does take a lot off. And I like using these to get a lot of the details in, as well as just taking off what I need to. And then I typically blend out the edges, just adding a little bit of a lighter blue, just so it looks really natural. And I'm gonna add a couple lines and shapes just in here. Do more depth. And I'll go back over with a white just to kind of blend everything in. And there is a bit of a ledge, so I'm just going to take a cold gray just to extend this a bit, kind of give that cat eye look. And this is going to help draw in our pupil. And then that's just going to extend. I'm just going to start adding some fur, base layer, white in this pupil, just around the edges, and I'm just blending in the edges, just like that. I'm going to take my dark indigo again and then go and outline it slightly just in the back and darken this up because I want it to be darker closer to the tip just to give it a bit of shadow. Because one side's going to have more highlights than the other. And we want to create that look by having one side darker than the other. And go back. Little highlight. And then I'm just going to slowly start extending with a bit of dark indigo, just a little underneath, and round it out a bit. And then I'm going to go just underneath these, blend them out. I'm just gonna erase just a bit there. Take my knife, just scratch out some details. And go back with that indigo. Then go around one last time around the bottom. Darken that line. As well as I'm going to make a second line just around. Just a little bit. And then extend down. Awesome. And I'm gonna take a burnt umber, and what I'm gonna do is grab a little bit of that in the Payne's Gray, and I'm actually just gonna go and start building direction around. I'm gonna add a bit more gray in the areas that I know I'm gonna have more shadow around. I'm not using black because I don't want it to look flat. And black is the last color I'll use unless I'm using for a black portrait, but then I'll also be using a lot of blues over top, as well as some cool grays. And then I'm gonna take a warm gray, which is kind of this tone, and I'm gonna start building direction. And I'm not drawing straight, I'm actually drawing with a bit of a curve. This is going to give a bit more definition and texture. And I want to keep in mind of where my hair flow is going. As for when it wraps around different parts, it's going to change direction in which way it flows. And this is a gray and white cat. So we're just gonna start with a darker gray. And I'm using another warm gray, but slightly darker. And I'm just gonna start and go in different directions to give that texture. And I always start from in and then go out because that's where the most pressure of my pencil is gonna be. And if I go in, then I'm gonna have like this little dot on the very tip. And I'm just loosely adding it layer by layer. And I'm gonna darken the corner here, as well as a bit underneath. Take a darker gray. And now I'm going to be getting into my colder tones. So this is, zoom in on it, a cold gray. And I'm going to be using this closer to the eye, not extending out as much, just because I want to even out those like colder tones near the eye. And then I'm going to fill in just a bit here. And now I'm going to be taking a black. I'm going to sharpen it first. And when doing fur, you always want to keep in mind that of having that nice sharp point. And then this is going to be a little bit shorter than a cold gray, and I'm going to outline the top of the eye with black to kind of give it that lip and to help with that cat eye look. And that's going to go all the way down. Fill in some of this area and then add some different textures. And I'm gonna extend out here with a bit of black, just a little, just to get some of the shadows I have in my portrait. And I'll extend just a little on our second line. It's all about layers. And I'm not pressing too hard because I still want to be able to add pencil over top as well as scratch it off. And when you press hard, it actually causes like a bloom effect, very waxy look, and we don't want that. Want a very cat eye look. And as I'm going towards my nose, it's actually gonna come out and then it's gonna go back up. Bring that in a bit. did that cat eye look? And then I'm gonna just darken up here just a bit more, bring in those shadows. Add a little bit more pressure closer to the top. And that is the start of a cat eye.